Throughout its long history spanning over 600 years, the Ottoman Empire engaged in numerous battles across various regions of the ancient world. It encountered numerous peoples inhabiting these regions, including Persians, Arabs, Russians, Greeks, Portuguese, Spanish, French, and others. While most of us are familiar with this information, few may know that the Ottoman Empire also confronted fighters from the Aztec people, one of the indigenous Indian groups settled in Central America. When we hear such peculiar information, we typically expect the battlefield to be in Central, South, or even North America. However, it may surprise you to learn that the battle between the Ottomans and the Aztecs took place in an unexpected location, far from the Ottoman Empire's lands and even the Americas. In this video, let us delve into the details of one of the most interesting and historically forgotten wars known as the Castilian War. After the fall of Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire, to the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror in 1453 AD, the Byzantine Empire disintegrated, and the Ottomans grew in power. They expanded in the Middle East and southeastern Europe, gaining control over land and sea trade routes between European kingdoms, principalities, and those of the Middle and Far East. The Ottomans levied taxes on European merchant ships, prompting the Europeans to seek alternative trade routes and lands beyond Ottoman control to secure natural resources, goods, especially spices, which were a valuable commodity at the time, and to open new markets. Portugal and Spain were the first European kingdoms to embark on exploratory campaigns, competing intensely to reach and control new lands. Portugal was the first to expand its influence and establish colonies and ports in various regions outside its territory. Even before the Ottoman expansion, the Portuguese conquest of the Moroccan city of Ceuta in 1415 marked the emergence of Portugal as the first European colonial power in the modern era. It transformed from a small kingdom into one of the most powerful empires in history, expanding east, west, and south. By 1571, thanks to its robust naval fleet, the Portuguese Empire possessed a series of naval forts, ports, and colonies stretching from Nagasaki in Japan to the coast of Brazil, passing through Africa, the Middle East, India, and South Asia. This Portuguese maritime expansion posed a significant threat to many Islamic and Arab kingdoms overlooking the coasts of the Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea, and Persian Gulf. The threat intensified after the Portuguese fleet achieved a decisive victory over a joint fleet consisting of the Ottomans, the Mamluks, the Indian Islamic Sultanate of Gujarat, and the Italian Republic of Venice in the naval battle of Dio in 1509. Consequently, the Portuguese gained control over the Indian Ocean region, the eastern Persian Gulf, and the southern Red Sea. The clash between the Portuguese and the Ottomans escalated further after the Ottomans successfully controlled Egypt and the Hejaz following their defeat of the Mamluks in the Battle of Radania in 1517, and their subsequent domination of shipping routes in the Red Sea. It appeared that the Ottomans also had expansion and exploration ambitions. When the Ottoman Sultan Selim I arrived in Egypt, the renowned Ottoman geographer and navigator Piri Reis presented him with a remarkably accurate map of the world. Historians were surprised by its depiction of parts of North, Central, and South America. This led many geographers and historians to hypothesize that the Ottomans were planning to expand and establish colonies in the Americas, possibly even preceding the Europeans. However, the Ottomans were primarily focused on expanding in the Indian Ocean region and Southeast Asia. Starting in the 1630s, Sultan Ala al-Din al-Qahar, ruler of the Sultanate of Aceh, a powerful naval force in the westmost of present-day Indonesia, sought assistance from the Ottoman Empire, the only major Islamic power at that time. His goal was to secure the Sultanate of Aceh against the Portuguese's increasing expansion in the region and to expand his influence on the island of Sumatra. In response, the Ottoman Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent dispatched a fleet comprising 500 fighters and sailors from the Ottoman Empire and its allied kingdoms and emirates. The Ottomans also aided Sultan Bahadur Shah, ruler of the Islamic Sultanate of Gujarat in western India, in his struggle against the Portuguese. They joined forces to besiege the Portuguese fort of Dio in 1538, with the Ottoman ships withdrawing after the campaign failed. Naval battles and direct military confrontations between the Ottoman Empire and the Portuguese Empire continued for 22 years, from 1538 to 1560, in the Red Sea, Persian Gulf, Horn of Africa, and the coasts of India. Even after the direct confrontations ended, both empires remained highly antagonistic toward each other and continued supporting each other's allies against one another. For instance, in 1564, Sultan Alaeddin al-Qahar sent another delegation to Sultan Suleiman the Magnificent, who responded by providing further aid to Aceh. Even after the death of Suleiman the Magnificent in 1566, his son, Sultan Selim II, continued to support the Sultanate of Aceh against the Portuguese and their allies in the region. Selim II ordered the dispatch of several ships carrying a large number of soldiers, engineers, firearms, and rifle makers, as well as a substantial amount of weapons and ammunition. Ottoman engineers and gunners taught the Aceh army how to manufacture bronze cannons and effectively use them. Thanks to the assistance of the Ottomans, the Sultanate of Aceh became a formidable force in the Southeast Asian region. It possessed a strong and modern army, posing a significant challenge to Portuguese expansion. The relationship between the Sultanate of Aceh and the Ottoman Empire continued to flourish religiously, economically, militarily, and culturally. A large number of citizens from the Ottoman Empire and its allies, representing various nationalities, moved to settle in the Sultanate of Aceh. However, the situation grew more complicated with the entry of a new powerful player into the conflict, the Spanish Empire, a competitor to both Portugal and the Ottoman Empire in the Southeast Asian region. By 1560, the Spanish had consolidated control over large parts of North, Central, and South America. They began expanding westward towards Southeast Asia from the ports they established on the western coast of Mexico, seizing the islands in their path. In 1565, Spanish exploratory missions arrived in the Philippine Islands, and the Spaniards quickly established themselves on the island of Cebu in the central Philippines, transforming it into a trading center and a starting point for further expansion into neighboring lands. In addition to their expansionist goals of acquiring more territory and controlling trade routes, the Spanish also aimed to spread Catholicism among the people of the Southeast Asian region. The Spanish expansion posed a serious threat to the Islamic sultanates in the region, such as the Sultanate of Brunei and its ally, the Sultanate of Sulu, as well as the Sultanate of Maguindanao. At that time, the Sultanate of Brunei held significant naval and military power in the region. It exerted almost complete control over the island of Borneo, with its influence extending to the southwest of the Philippines. The Sultanate sought to expand its influence over the entire Philippine Islands and promote Islam by welcoming a large number of clerics and preachers from what is now known as Indonesia and Malaysia. Between 1485 and 1521, Sultan Bolkiah ibn Sulayman established an entity affiliated with Brunei in the northern Philippines, which he called the Islamic Kingdom of Manila. Despite the strong influence of the Sultanate of Brunei and its allies in the Philippine Islands, the Spanish did not cease their expansion there. In 1571, they launched a campaign from their center of rule in Cebu, aiming to conquer Manila and spread Catholicism. Some indigenous tribes in Manila, who were enemies of the Sultanate of Brunei and Islamic rule, cooperated with the Spanish. The Spanish successfully gained control of Manila, establishing it as their new capital instead of Cebu. They began provoking the Sultanate of Brunei. In 1576, Francisco de Sandy, the Spanish governor of the Philippines, sent a letter to Sultan Saif al-Rajil ibn Abdul Qahar, accusing him of encouraging the local population to revolt against Spanish rule and continuing to send preachers to spread Islam throughout the Philippines. In order to maintain a favorable relationship with the Spanish Empire, Sultan Saif al-Rajil was required to immediately cease sending preachers to the Philippine Islands and refrain from spreading Islam there. Simultaneously, the Sultanate of Brunei had to allow the freedom to preach Catholicism in the Philippines and even in Brunei itself, without any constraints. Sultan Saif al-Rajil categorically rejected Francisco de Sandy's demands, considering the Philippines an integral part of the Islamic world that should not be ceded to any other power. Consequently, Francisco de Sandy declared war on the Sultanate of Brunei, marking the beginning of the Castilian War. The war which witnessed the participation of the most unlikely parties, who found themselves pitted against each other. The Spanish planned to attack the island of Borneo, the main headquarters of the Sultanate of Brunei, with the intention to occupy and eliminate the Sultanate. De Santi prepared a fleet carrying 2,200 fighters, consisting of Spanish soldiers, Native American warriors from the Aztec and Inca peoples brought from the Spanish colonies in Mexico and Peru, as well as fighters from the local population in the Philippines and Borneo. To confront the Spanish forces, Sultan Saif al-Rajil requested assistance from the Ottomans, who ordered the dispatch of forces from the neighboring Sultanate of Aceh. These forces included soldiers from various regions, such as Turks, Egyptians, Moroccans, Sudanese, Somalis, individuals from the Arabian Peninsula, the Indian Sultanate of Gujarat, and the Malabar region in southwestern India. They joined the local army forces comprised of residents of the Sultanate. During this time, two nobles within the Sultanate of Brunei, Seri Lela and Seri Ratna, offered to ally with the Spanish and assist in invading the Sultanate of Brunei. One of these nobles, Seri Lela, was the brother of Sultan Saif al-Rajil. He traveled to Manila, the capital of Spanish rule in the Philippines, and offered the Spaniards a proposal. In exchange for assuming power, he suggested transforming the Sultanate of Brunei into an entity affiliated with the Spanish Empire. He intended to rule in place of his brother, Sultan Saif al-Rajil. The Spanish agreed with Seri Lela and Seri Ratna, and in March 1578, their fleet set off toward the Sultanate of Brunei. They launched attacks during the campaign against the Sultanate of Sulu and the Sultanate of Maguindanao, both allies of the Sultanate of Brunei. After fierce fighting against Sultan Saif al-Rajil's forces, the Spaniards were able to occupy the city of Kota Batu, the capital of the Sultanate of Brunei at that time, on April 16, 1578. Sultan Saif al-Rajil withdrew his army to the Jerudong region in northern Brunei. As a reward, Seri Lela, the brother of Sultan Saif al-Rajil, assumed the throne of the Sultanate of Brunei as an entity affiliated with the Spanish. Seri Ratna, their ally, was appointed as a minister in the Sultanate. However, the battle was not over yet. Sultan Saif al-Rajil and his forces in Jerudong planned a counterattack to expel the Spaniards from Kota Batu and cleanse the entire island of Borneo of their presence and that of their allies. Fortuitously, cholera and dysentery began to spread among the Spanish soldiers and their allies, greatly weakening the Spanish occupation forces. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Sultan Saif al-Rajil launched a sweeping attack with an army of 1,000 fighters against the Spanish forces and their allies. The Saif al-Rajil forces were successful in defeating the Spanish and forcing them to withdraw from Kota Batu. However, before the Spanish retreated, they burned and destroyed the Grand Mosque in the capital. The Spanish army and fleet completely withdrew from the island of Borneo and returned to Manila in the Philippines on June 26, 1578. This means that the Spanish occupation of the Sultanate of Brunei lasted only 71 days. Seri Lela died in August or September of 1578, allegedly from an infection of the diseases that afflicted his Spanish allies. Some sources claim that he was executed by poison as a penalty for his betrayal, rather than dying from the disease. Although the Spanish invasion did not eliminate or subjugate the Sultanate of Brunei, it significantly weakened its power. The Sultanate was no longer a major maritime force in Southeast Asia as it had been before. Additionally, the Spanish eradicated the Sultanate of Brunei's ambition to penetrate the Philippines, spread Islam, and integrate it into the Islamic world. The Philippines became a Spanish-affiliated entity and a center for Catholicism in Southeast Asia. The name Philippines itself was given by the Spaniards and derived from the name of the Spanish king at the time, Philip II. In the subsequent years, the Spanish sought to improve and normalize relations with the Sultanate of Brunei. This effort was successful, and commercial and political relations began to flourish between the Spanish and the Sultanate of Brunei starting in 1599. After making peace with the Sultanate of Brunei, the Spaniards redirected their focus to a bloody conflict with the Muslim population in the Philippines, known as the Moro. The conflict lasted for 333 years, during which the Spanish were unable to achieve a decisive victory over the Moro.